Pastor Tim Stetson, and I'd like to welcome you to Life in Christ, where we share scriptures and a message from the Richford First Baptist Church. I'm so glad that you joined us for our program today. Our message will use God's Word as a foundation, and my hope is that His Word will have a special meaning to each one of you as you watch and listen. If you're ever in Richford and are not currently attending a church, we'd love to have you join us. We're located at 30 School Street, right in the center of town. School Street is located between the post office and the Pink Lady. Turn onto the street and come up the hill. The church is on the right-hand side of the street. Parking is found in front as well as around to the side. Our service starts at 9:45 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Now let's get to today's message. So a couple of weeks ago, I started this message series on things that God can't do. And a couple of weeks ago was probably a good Sunday to start a message on things that God can't do, because of course it was that stormy Sunday, so there weren't quite as many people here to throw things at me. Because, you know, it's always, well, wait a minute, Pastor Tim, normally you tell us that our God can do anything, right? And I think I qualified that last week by saying that that is absolutely correct, especially if it is in His will. But then there are some things that the Word tell us that God can't do. That week we spoke about the fact that God can't lie. Okay, so as you're thinking, you know, where's he going with this? You know, we're going to storm out of here. God can't lie, right? Because it's against His nature to lie. He just can't do it. God is truth. So if He could lie, could He be truth? Not very well, could He? So God can't lie. Jesus said, and we know this, we've studied this, He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Okay, He didn't say He was going to try to be those things, that He might be one or two of those at any one time. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So God can't lie, because if He did, He wouldn't be the truth. And if He wasn't the truth, who would He also not be? God, right? And we know that God can't not be God. The fact that God can't lie had some major implications for us. It meant that we could, number one, hold on to God's promises, right? Isn't it cool that there is somebody still in our life that when they make a promise to us, we can hold on to that promise as the golden rule? We know that it's going to happen. We can believe every one of those promises because God doesn't say something and then not follow through on it. We can also trust God's motives, right? Unfortunately, we live in a world where somebody can make a promise to us, they can follow through on that promise, and then we find out what their motives are. And they're always good, aren't they? They're not always, are they? But God's are. His motives are always 100% of the time for good. And third, we can rest in the truth that is God. So God can't lie. That's number one. That's the first thing that God can't do. The second thing that God can't do is to want your worst. Okay? God can't want your worst. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. God can't want your worst. Instead, He always wants the best for you. That's a little different from us, though, isn't it? Sometimes this is tough because we have to kind of admit some things about ourselves. And because if you think about this, when somebody does something bad to us, we want the best in the world for them, don't we? No? Oh. No, we want the worst for them, don't we? Can't you? I mean, can't you just, you can feel it? We want them to suffer some pain, right? And even if we don't say it, you know, you can be doing it with a smile on your face and this thing's still working, isn't it? So if someone cuts you off on the road when you're driving or overtakes you at a speed that is at least 80 miles an hour, do you wave nicely and blow them a kiss? I don't think so. No, you want something bad to happen to them. See, a couple things that come to mind, right? Oh, if there was only a cop just down the road. There never will be. It's always when one of us goes by them that they're down the road. But anyway, you wish that, or it's really slippery, so we'll see them off on the corner of the road here in a few minutes, right? You want the worst for them. Now, hopefully you don't make any obscene gestures, but you might beep your horn or flash your lights to show your disapproval. All the while hoping that speed trap is up the road. So when somebody does something bad to us, we want the worst things to happen to them. Even if we don't do anything, we think it's there in our head. That's as far as it goes. It's in our head. Huh? Yes, there you go. Yeah. So what is this called? It's one little word beginning with an R. And what we want is revenge. Revenge, it rolls off the tongue so easily, doesn't it? Revenge is so sweet. You see, as humans, we seek revenge. We seek to make others pay dearly for their mistakes. But is our God like that? No. Our God isn't like that because God can't want your worst. He wants your very best. The best way for us to illustrate this is for us to read a story. We're going to paraphrase it a little bit that Jesus told. Jesus was trying to explain about how great God really is. It's a story of a father and a son. It's a familiar story, but instead of dozing off, just because you've heard this story 100 times, listen to it today with fresh ears and see if God speaks to you about his love. See, Jesus was describing his love, and he tells the story in Luke 15, verses 11 to 22. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So think for a moment, taking and going to your dad and saying, "There's just 2 of us. You're going to die, and when you do, I get half, and my brother gets half, and by the way, I want my half now." That's just what he did. What a major slap in the face. Because did you catch the underlying message there? The underlying message is, you know what, Dad, you might as well be dead because what you have is more important to me than who you are. Imagine you had 2 kids and one of them said this to you. How do you think you would feel? What do you think your reaction would be? Would you want the best or the worst for your selfish son? You don't have to answer that. It was rhetorical. Verse 12 said, so he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country. Not only did he want everything now, but then what did he do? But what did he do first? He left. He rejected his dad. He disowned him. Another knife in his dad's back. What would his reaction be? Any parent who's had a child run away or leave in unpleasant circumstances knows what this is like. Many kids get angry at their parents. Anybody here ever get angry at their parents? And yes, I know, I probably ran away multiple times, but my mother always knew that when mealtime came, Timmy'd be right back. He wouldn't have run very far, and she's right even to this very day. But kids do get angry at their parents, right? And one of the things that they say, well, I'm going to run away, right? And sometimes off they go, and they yell about how much they want their parents dead. Dead in respect to their life, that is. It cuts parents up because it doesn't feel good, does it? We can look back on it today, but it doesn't feel good when a parent gets that message, does it? They feel pain and rejection and hurt, much like what this dad in the story that Jesus told felt. His son had given him this money, and now off he went. He rejected him. Verse 13 said, so the son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need, as always happens when you spend all your money. Have you ever noticed that? Do the bills stop coming just because the money's gone? If any of you have got that down, that we'll skip the second half of this message. That'll be next week's message. But especially if you squander all your money, eventually it's going to go away, isn't it? It's going to be gone. This guy wasted all of his inheritance. The money that his dad had worked hard to save. It was gone. Everything his dad gave him graciously, he threw away. The party life was now over. What would the reaction of this dad be? I know you're all thinking, what would my reaction be? Verse 15 says, so he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. That's hitting the bottom. That is desperation. You've had all your money. You've had all this fun. And now all of a sudden you're looking at a pig farm going, that's not a bad life. You're looking at the pigs eating the pods. Woo-hoo! This is the life for me. You've all dreamed of this, right? Now, all of a sudden, it's even more striking as we think about it, that this kid was a Jew. Did you catch that? Pig farm, Jew? It was against all the laws for Jews to eat pork or ham or even to associate with pigs. They were unclean animals, but here is this kid down and out tending to unclean animals. So we have rejection, we have waste, and now we talk about disgrace to the family. I don't know if you see the desperation that Jesus is trying to create in this story. Have you caught it yet? He's really trying to fire folks up with this story. The guy that had everything and now he has nothing, and then he's lusting after pig food. What would his dad's reaction be? So as he's feeding these pigs, he comes to his senses. When he came to his senses, verse 17, it says, he said, how many of my father's hired men have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and did exactly that. He went to his father. How would his dad react? This kid had insulted his dad. He'd rejected his dad. He had wasted all of his dad's money, and he had disgraced the family name. How would his dad react? How would you react? You would be seeking some revenge or restitution, wouldn't you? Again, rhetorical, but probably that thought process there. But listen to the response of the father. Verse 20, it says, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with joy, compassion for him. He ran to his son. He threw his arms around him and he kissed him. Why did he do that? His son had just stabbed him in the back numerous times. Why did this father run and embrace him and kiss him? Because his father wanted the best for him. Remember that this is a picture of God. This is what Jesus is sharing in this story, that this is a picture of God. God can't want your worst. He always wants what is best for you. Let's examine the reaction of this perfect father more closely. Verse 20 says that this father ran to his son. Running was most undignified for Jewish noblemen. But this dad didn't care. Okay, so picture this. He didn't care. He was so happy to see his son. He didn't care about his reputation. He didn't care about his status in society. He had no shame. Imagine you did that to your family. You take the car, you crash the car, you waste all the money, you disgrace the family name, and then you come back to live at home. don't you think there'd be some conditions on you coming back? Yeah, there would be. You can't drive the car. You have curfew. You can't hang out with those friends. You have to bring your grades up, and you better not give me any attitude. Right? So you'd be welcome, but only under certain circumstances, conditions. You'd be welcomed back. But that's not what this father did. There are no conditions. There are only open arms of acceptance and love. And then there's the kissed. The fact that the father kissed the son shows that he is reconciled and forgiven. A servant would kiss their master's hands or feet during this time. But for a master to kiss another shows respect and love in a relationship. Verse 21, the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. This father wasn't after revenge. His son had brought him pain and hurt and disgrace and insult, but that didn't change the love that this father had for his son. At the first opportunity, the father welcomed his son back and celebrated with him. This father didn't want the worst for his son. He wanted the very best. The best robe, which was undoubtedly his own robe, which was worn on special occasions. He was given a ring. The ring he gave him would have likely been a signet ring, which gave him in this day authority and power, rights, and financial credit. He put sandals on his feet as a sign that he was not a slave, but that he was a free man. Then he took the best calf and killed it. It was the calf that was being fattened up for special occasions. The amount of food from this beast was far more than what a single household could eat. The amount of food meant that all in the community would be involved in the celebration and the feast. The son was being restored back into relationship with the community. Then the father threw the best party. Everyone celebrated, the father and the son, for the son had been resurrected from the dead. Wow, what a reaction. Totally against the grain, totally the opposite of what you would expect, and oh, so different from what we would consider to be a normal reaction. But you know what? God is like that. Our God is like that. And that's how he responds to us. That is his responsiveness. He can't want our worst. He only wants our very best. As we look at this story, the story also tells us 6 things about God's character that we've got to hear. And next week, you're going to hear them. We need to discuss those 6 things. Because when we think of our God being like that Father and not wanting our worst, we need to know what those 6 things mean for our life. So until next time, amen.